Hi, everybody. This is Daniel Roberts, President and CEO of Moral Injury Support Network for Servicewomen Incorporated, and I have with me today a guest, Vicki Thompson. She is the president and founder of Divorce Right and Farewell, and the emphasis of her organization is on fairness and well-being for those that are going through challenging, difficult, maybe family relationship times and making some difficult transitions in that part of their life. And so she has some great information to share with us today, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So Vicki, if you could just give us a little bit of your background and what brought you, what motivated you to start this organization and to start this work?
Thank you so much. What brought me to this process and to do what I was doing is that I spent over $100,000 on my divorce. And I'm a pretty smart girl. I'm a pretty smart girl. And if I knew then what I know now, I'd be about $95,000 richer. I learned about the process. I learned about the mistakes I made. I learned about how I let emotion and, most importantly, being uneducated and unprepared steal my money and my future. And so this is my third company to be a disruptor in this industry. Um, I believe that the family law system is labyrinthine, and I believe it is labyrinthine and almost impossible to get out of on your own. And that's by design, because there's a lot of money to be made in this process. 100 grand just to end a relationship to me is just nonsensical. That's just
Right.
nonsensical to me. So my first business was a business that was a divorce coaching business. I mostly worked with women that were going through the process, and I just wanted to help them make better decisions than I did. My whole mission is to say, don't be like me. Now that I know, let me help you get through this without being um, manipulated out of making decisions that just don't work in your best interest. So that was my first company. And then I got a partner and created a company called the National Association of Divorce Professionals, with the concept there and mission there of just educating all of the professionals. There's so many people on a team when you need to go through this process, not just family law, but there's financial advisors and tax accountants. There's mental health counselors, child psychologists, there's real estate agents and lenders. It really truly takes a village to help you get through this. So I wanted to put them all together so that they could be educated on, the things the decisions that one was making over here, how it was impacting the life of that person over here. And they weren't even connecting the dots. So the mission was to make it a kinder and gentler experience for their clients. Also connecting like-minded professionals that really cared about the outcome of their clients instead of how much money they could make. And then from that, because I was doing so much education on that process to bring to our members, it became painfully obvious to me how much divorce actually costs our corporations, our government agencies, our economy as a whole. Divorce costs our country over $400 billion a year in lost productivity.
Wow.
Why? It's nuts, because people miss work for meetings with their attorneys and with judges. They are distracted because they have to answer phone calls at work or answer emails. They have to get financial documents from their banks. They have new schedules with picking up their children, so they have to make those accommodations. They are making errors because they're just not focused at work, so it costs them that way. They also are they present themselves as they're physically at work, but they're just checked out. They are worried about everything but their job or performing their job. They're worried about whether they're going to be able to keep their house. They're worried that maybe they're not going to be able to keep their kids or their job.
Right.
So they are worried about everything. So they are completely just disconnected and disengaged at work. And then the last thing is that 10% of divorcing employees, just slightly under 10% of divorcing employees quit. And that in itself is very, very expensive. So I wanted to create a company that works with employees, whether those are government employees or corporate America employees, to help them get through it, not spend their entire life savings on this process, get through it with as few battle scars, pardon the pun here, as possible, emotionally and financially, so that they can get on and move on with their lives, and then also have some resources to be able to do that.
Right.
I think that that is um, not only a gift to the person that we work with, but it's a gift to this country in it by way of having a financially stable person go back to work who's gotten through it, has been emotionally stable, and can go back to work and begin most importantly, just begin the next chapter of their life with some, renewed hope for their future.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. When you think about divorce, there's a lot of stigma surrounding it, right? There's a lot of um, there's the religious factor,
Right.
because even people who aren't actively practicing a religion, most people grew up
Right.
with some sort of religious background, in America, largely Christian, and
Yep.
so there's that aspect of it. There's also a huge part for people, I'm sure, is the financial worries about, if I do dig get divorced, then I have to,
Yeah.
we have this joint income, and that my income is going to be cut in half or even less. I'll have to share income with this person. We have all this property together, so on and so forth. And then there's just the emotional burden of, I failed at marriage, what's wrong with me, all those sorts of things,
Shame.
right?
Yeah. Shame.
But in many cases, right, divorce may be the best answer for someone, right?
Oh,
Because of the
absolutely.
nature of the relationship they're in.
Daniel, we are not advocates for divorce. We're just advocates for divorce done right. And, I work with a lot of chaplains because we do a lot of first responder work, for particularly with firefighters and police officers. And the chaplains are the ones that came to me to say, Vicki, we we get that we can't save every marriage, nor should every marriage be saved. It is oftentimes the best step forward is to have them take steps apart from one another. And, they didn't understand they understand spiritual counseling like you do, and they understand the support that somebody may need, but they also know that they didn't understand the process of divorce. And that's really what we're here for, is we're here to help them through that process. Even the idea of getting started can just be overwhelming because they don't know what to do. And so, there's two very important and very expensive things in the divorce process that costs you money: being unprepared and unorganized, and being uneducated about knowing what you need to know. And so we take that away. We get them educated about what's going to happen, what the potential choices are. We have a get started package to help them organize all of their documents. Because when you show up, if you need an attorney, which that's not always the best way, in my opinion, it's right for some cases. Some cases absolutely need an attorney, but there's so many that don't. but the brand of my industry is you better get a shark, or you better get a bulldog, or you better get a barracuda. You better get something that's going to eat the other party, right? That's
Yes,
what, right?
right.
But I will tell you that the most expensive part of a divorce is hiring a shark, hiring a bulldog, or hiring that barracuda, because this conflict and chaos is where the money is. And they also love it if you're unprepared. If you're just all over the place and unprepared, the cash register is just ringing, you
Yeah,
know?
because there's all those billable hours, right? To
Absolutely. And
yeah.
if you need them to help you do, or if they have to just constantly check in with you to where are you? Attorneys charge in 6-minute increments, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're gonna call you up. How you doing? Ka-ching. That just,
Yeah.
that call just cost you $75. Right? It's just, to me, it's just nonsensical. The whole process and procedure of breaking up a marriage that's not working in this country, to me, is just, you know, it's nonsensical. And if we understood that the financial damage, I don't know if we chatted about this, but 75% of all welfare applications are as a direct result of a divorce. 75%.
Wow.
We
I can
Section 8
actually
houses.
I can believe that,
Yeah.
certainly.
The WIC program, Section 8 housing, food stamps, after school support programs, transportation, all of those support programs are as a direct result of divorce. But we don't think about, we as us as taxpayers, that that's part of the problem. And it's the problem is just that this system is just like a meat grinder. It puts you
Mm.
through it and you just don't come out the other side the same way. So we want to stop that if we can and get them through a process. And, I sit down with them. I go, I spent 100 grand on mine. Do you want to do that? Or do you want to
Mm.
do it for about 5,000? What,
Yeah,
what, what would be your best choice? What's the choice here? Put your small
right.
pride, and let's save you some money and get you some resources so that you guys can go apart from one
Right.
another. Okay.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say I have a great marriage. So I'm not referring to myself, but as I think through,
Mhm.
um, but I have been divorced before. So if I'm a person and having counseled people that are thinking about divorce or struggling in their relationship, let's say I'm a person and I just maybe have been struggling in my marital relationship for a while. I'm thinking maybe divorce is the answer. I'm not sure. Um, you know, let's say there's no abuse. It's just not a not the love is lost or whatever. There's just it's just
Brother sister relationship, right?
connecting. Yeah, and so do I start with you? Is it better to start with get some counseling, get some, that like when do you come in the process? I could understand if I'm a person that's decided, yes, I'm definitely getting divorced. I can see where you certainly would come in, but is there earlier in the process that you might want to
Yes.
be,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
what we would recommend, we have partnered with a company, and this is a company that is available on your Military One Source
hmm
site. It's an excellent program. It is very inexpensive compared to in-person counseling. This is for marriage enrichment and the possibility of saving your marriage. This is not about making the decision to stay or go. We can help you with that process. But if you want to give it that one last try, there is a program in your benefits called Our Relationship. It's an excellent program. I've done it. It is online. It's a 4 to 6 week program. It's supported with in-person online counseling sessions so that you can keep the temperature down. And then if that doesn't work, yes, we can help you and coach you through making that decision of should I stay or should I go? And those decisions are different for everybody. There's not a one size fits all on this. And I will say that, I talked about that brother-sister relationship. I mentioned that. That's a very dangerous relationship in marriages where you're just, yeah, I'm working with a couple that's going through it now. They've been in the same bed together and have not had intimate relationships with each other for 7 years. And, they go, it's like, I'm living with my brother.
Yeah.
And I get it, and they both want more for themselves. And they're not going, I think there's just been too much, sometimes there's just too much water under the bridge
Yeah.
to bring that back. Our relationship can help you respark that. Um, the longer you wait, the more water that goes under that
Mm.
bridge, the longer the shot is to
Yeah.
repair that relationship.
Right.
Our statistics are that 50% of couples that go to couples therapy are divorced within 3 years. And, I'm often asked, why is that the statistic? And my belief is that they just waited too late.
Yeah, that's what I think
There's-
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So doing a program like our relationship, I think it's a really good idea, even if you don't have, big issues in your marriage, it can help you from getting to that point, right?
Right.
It helps you from needing people like me. If this is salvageable, but doing it early, um, learning to understand each other's needs early. There's so many other things, even just books like the 5 love languages, learning the love language of your partner, I think is really important.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
things like that can help you and support you. But, we are there if you decide that you know, this is probably not where you want to be. We'll help you um, with some care and professionalism, and most of all, compassion to help you come to your own conclusion. We're not going to put that into your mind. This is
Right.
about helping you get to where you need to be and help you kind of accept that reality that you're
Yeah.
you're better off. Sometimes you're safer
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
both
that it's
mentally and physically. You're safer to be out of a
yeah.
toxic relationship. And your children, by the way,
Yeah. Yeah,
are
no, it's
healthier to be out of a toxic relationship, whether it's mental abuse or physical abuse. it it's it's not a bad decision to get your children out of that environment. And
yeah,
you're
I hear you, and I think it's sort of, as I'm thinking of one person in particular in mind, abusive relationship, and but her concern was, um I don't want to take the kids away from their father, right? But father wasn't really there for the kids anyway.
right.
But it's sort of like it's which is going to do more harm to the kids, not being together as a family, or staying together, but dealing with that trauma and the
Well,
fighting and the whatever, the emotional, even if you're not actively fighting as a couple, just, kids know if there's love there, if there's kindness, if there's
well,
warmth towards each other.
you're mirroring to them what relationships are,
Right.
right? Whatever that is, you're mirroring that to them. And I will say, have you and I ever talked about the ACE test, adverse childhood
Yes,
experiences test?
you sure have.
I think that it's important to understand. Well, first of all, divorce, I cause an ACE score for your children. Divorce does give you one
Yes,
out of
right,
10. It's not
right.
insignificant, but watching abuse, watching mental
Mhm.
abuse, watching physical abuse, all of that other stuff also gives ACE scores. And the higher your ACE score is, the higher your risk for divorce, but also your higher your risk for mental health issues,
Yeah,
physical health issues,
right.
homelessness, incarceration,
Mhm.
high risk behaviors. There's all sorts of things that come along with
Yeah, absolutely.
bad events in your child's life. So do you give them one with a divorce and then support them
Mm.
through that, or do you have them get 4 and 5 where they witness physical abuse on their mother, or
Right.
emotional abuse to their father? It's very it's important to make some decisions from a place of compassion, but also education and knowledge about what this whole process can do.
Yeah, I there's the other factor too of as a parent years later potentially regretting I should have left him sooner. I should have got out of that sooner. I shouldn't have waited. Like I know folks, of course, they wait until the kids are out of school, then they get divorced, but then there's this regret of, why did I let my kids go through that for all those years when, but it's sort of it's difficult, right? Because
Yeah, you
making
don't know
that
what to do.
decision and one of the things I love about your program is that it's so scary because unless you're an expert on divorce, like
Right.
you work in the field, all you can think about is how scary it is, how much it might cost, what I might lose, and the fear of that unknown can be
It's
much greater
overwhelming.
than just at least I know what I'm dealing with every day, and you try to tell yourself, well, I can do this, or I'll just ignore them, or I'll just because the idea of crossing that unknown is so scary.
The
Um,
whole
yeah,
concept is overwhelming. You don't
right.
even know how to get started. You don't know who to call. You don't know what you need. And yet we just sit there and go, oh yeah, she's getting a divorce. It's like, what? No, there's
Yeah.
and we've created this system that's nearly impossible to get yourself out of. But one thing I wanted to share with you is one of my very closest friends had a very traumatic childhood. And she's had she's had her share of challenges as an adult. And her mother is now in a facility at the end of her life, and she's I think in her late 80s now. And just this last Thanksgiving, she said to her, I'm so sorry I stayed and put you through that.
Mm,
80, I think she's 86, maybe, I think 40, 50 years later,
yeah.
finally got the apology that she needed. Um, but yeah, don't be on your deathbed
Yeah. Right.
having to apologize to your child about putting
Right.
them through hell because you were afraid.
Yeah, that's a great point. So how do you help people take down the fear? How do you
I
help
will tell
them think
you,
through that?
I will tell you that first of all, just when we talk to somebody, we have our first meeting with somebody. You can, and we'll do it on meetings like this on Zoom, and you'll physically see them. They're crunched up. They're even the muscles in their face are just tense. They'll have knots on their face, and they come in and they're scared, they're confused, they're overwhelmed. I use that word a lot. Um, and it's like drinking water out of a fire hose. And they just are like deer in the headlights because they just don't know. So they're like this. By the end of the meeting, they go, oh, okay, I can create a plan. So what we do is we have a consultation, um, and we have a very extensive intake form. So we want to learn about um, your members' background. We want to learn whether there are special needs children involved, whether they speak different languages, whether this is a religious divorce, whether there are other issues like LGBTQ or domestic violence, or if this is a blended family. We have a very extensive intake form. And from that, we match them with a coach that can help them understand how to move forward, and speaking to them in the way that, with compassion and care, but also connection, because that's what they work on. Like, I don't speak Japanese, but we have somebody that does. I don't speak Farsi, but we have somebody that does. I
Mhm.
don't understand the Middle Eastern culture, but we have a lot of people that do. So we can connect them with the right person that can then become their advocate when they have no voice sometimes for themselves. And then what we do is we give them access. We have a program. It's about 10 hours of video time. But it's also a lot of emotional healing too. We do
Mhm.
take them from the um, do you want to stay or do you want to go? We teach them about the language of the professionals they're going to need, the language of the court system. That in itself is very intimidating. It's, Latin, pro se, and, quid pro quo. I mean, all these crazy Latin terms that how are you supposed to know what that stuff
Right.
means? So we teach them about the language of the courts. We teach them the how we like I said, we teach them what kind of financial documents they need to start to organize. We give them file folders for everything so that everything is in order. We give them, just the education of what the process and the decisions, that just understanding just what you're going to need to make some decisions about. Just having a plan that they've created for themselves, because there are 5 ways to divorce in this country. And we know about one of them, and that's you better lawyer up, right?
Yeah. Right.
You got to lawyer up. Well, you don't. If I told you you didn't really have to do that, you should always get an attorney to look over the documents. But there are other ways. You can do this with, a mediator, which is what we do. And by the way, your members and they get a 25% discount on mediation services if mediation services are a good fit. It's not always. Um, if there's been domestic violence, it's not a choice. But what we will do is we will help them research and interview attorneys that will work for them, that are a good fit. So we help them build that team, but they start to learn that there are other ways to do this that don't have to cost them their life savings. So we just show them that process. We can do financial analysis for them to show them what their life is going to be like in the future financially, because that's a big fear.
Right.
And um, and then we give them some hope for the future. So they go through this program. It's supported with some in person, this Zoom meetings where we kind of catch up with them, find out where they are, give them some guidance and direction to next steps. And then at some point they're going to be able to fly on their own, or if they can't, we can always be there to support them. We've actually gone into a courtroom and sat behind our clients and come out during a break and go, that was great, but this is what's happening and this is where we need to pivot a little bit.
Right.
So we can help them with strategy. And ultimately we help them. We are a concierge service to help them set up their next phase of their life, from finding them a financial advisor and an accountant, to finding them a realtor or a mortgage lender, getting them therapy for themselves or for their children. Um, we're there to help them through this process from start to as long as they want us there. And that's
Yeah.
just, some people just need us for a minute. Some people need us for a few years, and we're everything in between.
That's awesome. How do you go about vetting or the lawyers and other folks that you're going to refer people to or that you're going to connect them to if they need it? What are the
Well,
requirements to be associated with?
with us.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the things that I had was a Rolodex that I came into this company with of people that I know, like, and trust. And one of the things that they had to do when they joined my former company was they had to sign an agreement that said that they were going to be putting their clients' needs ahead of their own. And so that's why it worked as well as it did, because those were the people that weren't there for the creating the conflict and chaos. They were
Right.
there to kindly help them go. And that's that. There are good attorneys. I don't want you to think that I don't like attorneys, because I do. And I know that they're needed, but there are some that pay for their vacation home on the backs of their clients. There
Yeah.
are some that, their car just broke down, and so they need to wink wink nod nod and ask the judge for some continuances or some
Yeah.
other things that they need. I've actually seen attorneys that I know that I had referred sometimes, do some stuff to get billable hours, and I called them on it and I said, oh no, that's not going to happen. um so I think that ultimately, we want to, so I know, and I don't know if in the military they have opportunities to buy legal insurance plans, or if they have discounted legal plans through their EAP at uh through their work. But whatever their options are, we actually will take them through. We will show them, let's say that it's MetLife Legal or ROG or US Insurance or one of the other insurance companies. They will give you a list of attorneys that you can use. We will go through all of the rating sites. We'll go through avo.com. We'll go through Martindale Hubble, which is a site where other lawyers rate other lawyers.
Mm.
We'll go through Google reviews. We'll go through Yelp even. We will dig deep and see what the client experience has been with this attorney. We have a list of, we give them a whole list of questions, about 50 questions that they can ask their attorney just to make sure their attorney aligns with their values or aligns with the experience that they need for their case. And I'll give you an example. We're working with a firefighter um, in Colorado, and he's in a common law marriage there. And they had a child. And when they had their child, they decided to leave Colorado to move to another state to have his parents support with the raising the children while they worked. And after the child was ready for preschool, they decided they were going to move back to Colorado. And he came back, got his old job back, and so he came back early. And when she was supposed to move out, she ended up moving to another state where her parents are, took the kid, and now he's got a battle. So we're supporting him we helped him with, reviewing. He had an insurance company. So we went through, we taught him how, he needed somebody that was an expert in child custody litigation. And this is cross state lines. So we had to find him lawyers in Colorado, lawyers in the other state that she's in. There was going to be a restraining order because she was with somebody that's had a multitude of DUIs, had a suspended driver's license, and was driving their child to and from daycare. So we had to find a criminal lawyer for restraining orders. So, we kind of get down in the muck and mire and help them make the best decisions with the resources that they have. So it may not be somebody that I know personally from his community, which I do. Honestly, I know a lot. But that doesn't mean that that's what his insurance company is going to say. Here, use these people, right? This is where
Right.
your expenses are, right? So we have to do what we have to do and make the best of that. But he was able to interview, find somebody, through all of the reviews, when the words custody kept coming up, we knew that included experience. And if it was positive custody experience, we knew that was somebody that he wanted to interview. And so that's what we did.
Yeah, I think it's really key. I mean that just knowing you have, so you're not alone in trying to navigate through all this. Just somebody who can help you. A lot of times, when we're helping people that reach out to us, some of the things they could do for themselves probably, but when you're really struggling emotionally and you're feeling down and you're feeling overwhelmed, you can't do it yourself. And just
It
having somebody that is there for you, that you can reach out to, that you can say, can you help me? Can you help? Just some advice, just somebody knowing that, hey, I'm
Right.
here for you. I'm on this journey with you, and I'm here to see that you get what you need is a huge, huge help for people.
You don't know how, when I talk about that overwhelm, they you can see they're just shut down because there's just so much that you don't know, and there's so much you're you become afraid, you're afraid of what you don't know, and it can paralyze you into making zero decisions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you don't know, this isn't like making a sandwich, right?
Right.
This isn't something that you do every day. As a matter of fact, hopefully you only do this once a year. I mean, once a year lifetime. Once a year, that'd be tough, right?
Right.
But once in your lifetime. And, you know, there's no shame in not understanding the process. Why would you know it?
Right.
But with that said, it has become this crazy, complicated, overwhelming system designed by the very people you have to pay a lot of money to get you out of.
Yeah.
They designed it so that you can't figure it out on your own,
Right.
right? They just did.
Right.
Listen, this is a huge, huge business. It's a $50 billion a year industry. More money goes through the family court systems than in any other court system. Um, and there are some other things about um, the family law, process and getting involved in that kind of thing. The longer you're in it, the higher your risk of women, breast and advanced stage uterine cancer, men, acute myocardial infarctions, lung, bladder, pancreatic, colorectal cancer, the higher your risk for bankruptcy. Like I said, it's the number one reason for food stamps and uh, uh, what's government assistance programs,
Mhm.
right? It is also, mental health. You increase your risk of not only depression and anxiety, but you also increase your risk of suicide. So this is not getting you in and out of the process in a kinder, gentler way, that's faster, and it's never going to be good. I don't ever want anybody to
Right.
sit there
Right.
and go, this is going to be wonderful. No, it's not. It's gonna suck on its best day, but it'll be better than being in that system. Do you know what I'm saying when I
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
where
I
there's
mean, I don't love getting medical care, but you have to have it. So if you have to go in for surgery, it's not going to be like, hey, I get to have surgery, but
yeah,
if it
right.
saves your life, it saves your life. So
Yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah, I appreciate your honesty with that. And you've done a lot of work with first responders and military and so on. And so what are some of the unique challenges of that population group that really that motivates you to help them?
Well, I, as a tax-paying citizen, was arrogant enough to not really understand what the sacrifices of our first responders give to us. I mean, you can see it now with, the fires out in California. I
Right.
mean, those people are saving lives and heroes at their own expense. Um, they have four key risk factors that are for divorce that are baked in to their jobs for you, the jobs that they do for you, the jobs that they do for me, and everybody else that lives here in the United States. They have the four key risk factors, particularly in firefighters and military, are high exposure to stress. I mean, think
Mm.
about it. If you're at a fire station and that bell goes off, boom, your adrenaline goes,
Yeah.
your cortisol levels go up, and that has in its own, it's like a pinball machine with damage to, right, all of your organs and your tissues. They have high exposure to trauma. And I will tell you, I was so humbled by the very, I used to go after, I used to think that I wanted the Googles and the Disneys and the Walmarts and things like that, which I do. But I sat down with my first firefighter. We were at a coffee shop in Fort Lauderdale. It's a flower shop and it's a coffee shop and it's lovely. And it has little vignettes inside and people were sitting all over the place. And we were there. We had met for coffee and I had a blueberry muffin. And he sat down across the table from me and he was kind of like, just like this. That remember we was talking about that he was there, but he wasn't there.
Mm,
And I always feel guilty when I ask somebody this because I know the answer is never good. But I just said to him, I said, "Are you okay?"
yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah, I just picked up a head off of I-95 from a traffic accident." Now
Yeah.
here, now I had just taken a bite of that blueberry muffin, and I went, and it hits the back of my throat, and
Yeah.
I start choking. And I start crying. I'm an ugly crier. So I'm stuff is coming down. I can't, and my throat is like closing up. Have you ever had that where you're going,
Yeah.
he's not moving. Everybody else in this coffee shop coming over. I had people like hitting me on the back. Somebody's raising my arms above my head. Somebody's trying to get me water. Somebody's rubbing my back to make sure that I like trying to get, he's not even kind of consciously aware. And he's the first responder, right? He's the
Mm,
guy, right? And then the next day I went and I met another one and he had just pulled a 3-year-old out of the bottom of a hot tub.
yeah.
And both of these guys, I sat there and went, how do they go home and be daddy?
Mm,
How do they go home and go, honey, let's go have date night?
yeah.
Right. And so that changed the trajectory of my business and why I'm so passionate about that. So that's trauma. The third thing, and this is everybody else too, is shift work. If you work shift work, that actually increases your risk of divorce. And then
Mm,
the fourth thing that they have that's unique to firefighters and to the military more so than any of the other ones is that they live in a frat house, right? They live in a frat house where nothing good happens for a marriage in those frat houses.
yeah.
It just is. It just doesn't. Lot
Right.
lot of, you know, boy stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
16-year-old boy stuff.
Absolutely.
And so those four things are baked into their jobs. And I feel that if we are asking them to go do those things that I just told you that we ask them to do, and our military, I have not yet worked with somebody that's actually been in a combat situation. I've worked with airmen um, at Air Force bases, but I have not worked. So I can't imagine what they see. But I promise you one thing, it adds additional stresses to marriages that somebody that works for IBM,
Right.
doesn't experience.
Right. Yeah.
And
And when you think about women veterans having all those things plus even the people that they're supposed to rely on, count on often are also the ones that are adding additional stress if you're in a male dominated environment. So you have that harassment, gender harassment, sexual harassment, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
Those kind of stresses and just being, a token level person in a group that's all male except for one or two people, you being the one or two people that's not male, so those are some additional stressors.
yeah,
And then you mentioned in combat, I have lots of friends that have been to combat, and one of the difficulties, I'm thinking of one person in particular spent almost his entire career in the elitist of special forces, the elite of the elite, personally responsible for the deaths of many, many people, and either through direct combat, one-on-one, man-to-man combat, or calling in artillery, all kinds of ways that he was involved in killing people, doing his job. And the longer he went on, the less connection he had to his family, and in these recent deployments where especially where he had access to sat phone and secure phone, he said I could literally talk to my wife every day if I wanted to, because that's the level of communication they had. But he said I would go for weeks without talking to her because trying to make that transition of I'm eating a sandwich while I'm watching people get blown up on a
Right.
video screen, and then
Right.
trying to talk to my wife and our 4-year-old kid and all that. It just mentally, emotionally, you can't do it.
It's
So like there are these huge barriers of between you, like you get this dead inside. You become like dead inside, um, numb inside, and when you're in a marriage, you don't want to be married to a person who's numb inside, who's not emotionally can't emotionally connect to you. And it's not their fault because of the nature of their business. But
right.
then you don't just come back from a deployment like that and just switch on to, hey, now I'm now I'm
Right.
loving husband, caring father. You try, but it's just humans aren't built for that kind of, we're not droids or whatever. So those additional, which are very similar to the kind of challenges you're talking about with EMT people and
Yeah.
firemen and law enforcement who are involved in these kind of like,
Every day. Every day.
yeah,
There's a statistic that one of the chaplains shared with me that he said, Vicki, he goes, you as a civilian will have between 3 and 5 traumatic events in your lifetime. And this was a firefighter chaplain. He goes, these guys have that in a 24-hour shift.
right.
And I went, "Mm." So with that said, it's changed the trajectory of my focus on my business. I want to, after that week of those two gentlemen changed my life. They changed how I advocate for first responders now. I was one of those taxpayers that just didn't get it. They're the guys that show up when I have a traffic accident, right?
Yeah.
They came when my mother fell at her home and I called 911. Those were the guys that came and got her. I never thought about what they see and what they deal
Right.
with until now. And so I know now, and eventually I want to get in front of Congress and go, hey, we are causing for our protection, we are causing issues with their relationships. Let's support them. Let's help
Yeah.
them go through this process in a kinder and gentler way that they don't end up spending everything that they fought for, pardon the pun, um, for their livelihood and their lives. So that's my why, I guess.
Yeah, no, and as I think about this too, I think you're doing a favor to the spouse too by providing this service because
Yeah.
you're helping not drag them through,
Yeah.
as I mean, they could potentially not benefit from it, but
Yeah.
I see like the easier
It's
you make this, the more that you
both of
make
them.
it a positive experience, the right word, but for
Mm,
both parties, because the other spouse, they deserve to not be destroyed in the process too. I mean,
yeah.
this is so
Heck,
so you're actually helping both parties, it seems like to me, um, by helping it not be acrimonious and be
right.
very expensive and be
And
us,
time, right?
conflicting,
The
all
time
this.
that that
Yeah.
that you, I mean, was it, oh, a call that I was just on just before you. It was with some realtors that specialize in divorce. They finally closed on a house where the divorce took, are you ready for this? 10 years. 10 years. They finally closed on, the divorce was final in December, and they closed and they sold her house last Friday. 10,
Yeah. Yeah.
10 years. And
Yeah.
that's 10 years of, there's a book called The Body Keeps Score. I don't know if you've ever.
Yeah. I absolutely, yes.
That's what I mean when I'm talking about you keep yourself in that soup. That's what happens. Get yourself out, as painful as that can be for you, or maybe, if you're one of those people that seeks revenge and you just get some sort of joy out of hurting the other person, well, you're still hurting yourself too.
Mhm.
And you're living in that negative energy, and it's going to impact your physical health and your mental health.
Right.
It- it's the same as it's impacting the other person. So, you know, think about that for a minute, that doing that damage to the other spouse for the sake of revenge or
Yeah.
anger, whatever, is only hurting yourself.
Yeah. I have a friend. I was just talking to him yesterday, and he thought he got divorced like 3 years ago, and apparently he didn't. Um, he said, I went to the lawyer, I signed all kinds of paperwork,
Oh,
but I guess she never filed it or whatever. And he said, I I thought I was divorced. I didn't know I wasn't. And he said, I filed my taxes as a single person. Is that going to bite me? And I was like, but
wow. That's a
it's
new one for
just,
me.
yeah, that's right. But it just goes to show you that people don't know.
Complicated.
Like
Yeah,
he thought,
yeah,
um,
it's complicated.
and he said, because he found this out because she recently reached out to him. They haven't talked in a, I don't know when was the last time they talked, right? They don't
Right,
talk.
right.
And so, and she met up with them and they had coffee or whatever. I'm not sure what the purpose was or don't remember. I don't remember that part of the
Right, it's
story,
not
but
important, right, to the for
but
the
she had asked him, "Do you forgive me?" He said, "I forgave you a long time ago. If not for you, for me, because I don't want to hold on to that because I know the damage it can do."
right,
But it just goes to show, like, if you buy a car, you know you bought it or not, right? If
right.
you eat a meal, you know. But he was, you know, uh,
Not knowing
didn't,
what he
yeah.
needed to know, right? He
He
didn't
said, I
know.
paid a lot of money. Signed a lot of papers. Like, how is it that I'm not divorced?
That's unbelievable.
Um,
That was irresponsible of his attorney, if he
yeah.
had one.
So I don't think he did. I don't see him as a kind of person, but, so a couple of questions here. I think probably people are listening thinking, okay, what does it cost me to use this service and what would it cost me to do this program? Um, wh-
Right. Well, we have a couple of different options for you, which is we can have uh our course itself, that is that education component, which we are gifting to any of your people that go through this process. This is our gift
okay.
to your women. If they need coaching and consulting on that, we'll work out something with you. Our normal fee is $300 an hour, but we will discount that substantially for your women. Our mediation services, that depends upon a lot of things, the complexity of the case. Um, there's a lot of pensions here, depending upon their pensions, their 401ks. There are things called quadros, which are qualified domestic relations orders that can, depending upon how many, those can be $500-600 a piece. Um, our average mediation, roughly with um, parenting plans, with financial analysis, with a mediation, roughly a couple of months of time, and between $3,500 and $5,000 on average, plus the cost of those quadros. Depending upon how many those are, and if there's a lot of other things that aren't calculated in, like if somebody's not cooperating, somebody doesn't show, somebody is
Yeah.
uh it's a lot longer process than just 8 hours worth of mediation. It can cost more, um we're, instead of the average divorce in the United States is about $25,000.
Yeah.
So we're somewhere, 2,500 on the low end to at the most $8,500. And we do discount our mediation services to your members as well by 25%.
Okay, so that's huge. I thought that was what I was looking for. So potentially 25,000 or more on
In
the
the litigated space.
way or this way, couple thousand, 2 to 5,000, whatever, depending on what
Yeah.
is needed.
Yeah.
And
There's,
you're offering
yeah.
some free services to our members to get started and do some learning. So I think that's great. And I think it's good for people to know that. What I would say is if anybody who reaches out who's interested and comes through Moral Injury Support Network, and then we can refer them to you, then you know that they're coming from us and they're authorized those discounts and stuff. So I'm happy to share with that. They can reach out to you directly too, of course. And
Absolutely.
what is the best way to reach out to you to get in touch with your services and your folks?
Well, I've got two different emails, and I'll give you the easiest one to use, which is Vicki, and I'm Vicki with a Y,
Mm-hmm.
at fairwell.com, and that's FAIR. Well,
Okay.
that's emphasis on the word fair, because that's what we look to provide here, is a fair
Yeah.
outcome. Is it going to be perfect? No. There's a phenomenon in my industry, which is, if you ask most people, do you remember what was the name of your divorce attorney? That's
No
exactly
idea.
right. Nobody, nobody,
Anything
and
good.
it's literally, it's like a phenomenon. If you just stop anybody, ask them, they won't know.
Yeah, of
Your
course.
people won't remember mine either. It just is just a
Yeah,
part of
right.
trauma that comes along with that. But and you and I had never talked about that before, but I knew that you wouldn't know. Nobody
Yeah,
does.
of course.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
I was in the industry and I couldn't remember mine. And I used to pass this building with his pylon sign with his name on it, 3 times a week. Three times
Yeah.
going, 3 times coming. I saw his building three times, twice each way, and I still didn't remember his name until I had to look up a document about 6 months ago. And I think his name was Terry, and I literally looked up
Yeah.
family law Terry, Fort Lauderdale, and I found it. That's how I found it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember the guy who took out my wisdom teeth either,
Yeah, it's
because it's
trauma.
not something, like you hopefully don't need them very many times.
But divorce is trauma, and
Yeah.
it's a trauma
Right.
response, and it's
Right.
so. For now, I'm Vicki Townsend. I am with
Yeah.
Farewell, and I'm looking forward to helping you get through this in as kind and as gentle a way as possible, so that you can have some resources left and build a life for the next chapter.
Yeah. And we're going to put all your information in the show notes so that people can just see it and click on it, so on.
Awesome.
Do you have a website that you want to promote
We
or?
have farewell.com.
Yeah,
And
you
again,
probably
that's
already.
FAIR, farewell.com. We also have, for if there's somebody here from the military that's in leadership, we have now just actually as of March 1st, 2026, we will have the security features that is necessary for us to have federal contracts.
Mm,
So we can provide our services on military bases. If you are in mental health
yeah.
for in the military, please, we would love nothing more than to bring this to your base and to get your people through this process, because the only ones that have higher divorce rates than firefighters are our military. So let's
Right.
get them the support they need, so that they can get through this without destroying themselves financially or emotionally.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and we're happy to help you in any way you can. Helping by helping our population.
Yeah.
It's really important
I'm
work
in
you're
a
doing, and
Thank you.
you know.
I'm in a sucky business. It does not have a bad reputation for no reason. I just want to change it. I just want to change it.
Yeah,
I want my legacy to be that I helped people move into another chapter in their life. And they did it with some grace and some dignity.
yeah, it sounds perfect.
Thank you.
Well, that's a great ending to our show, I think. But again, if you have any questions at all, if you're thinking about the divorce or you're in the process of going through it, I would definitely highly encourage you to reach out to Vicki, and you can hear in her compassion in her voice, her passion in her voice, that she really really cares about us, military veterans, first responders, and that she really wants to help us. And be a lawyer and a friend, a co-journeyer, somebody who can help you on this journey, not just take your money and have you as a client move on, but somebody who really is interesting in helping you start a new chapter in life that can hopefully, you can move past whatever difficulties you're experiencing, without judgment, without, all the other kind of baggage that goes along with it, or at least minimizing that, and to help you get a fresh start. So, Vicki, I thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you.
this, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. And
Thank-
and thanks.
Bye, everybody.